I would not wish this stuff on like my worst enemy at all.
24-year-old COVID patient Patrick Bershia had been hospitalized just over a week when we first met him earlier this month.
Oh, sorry, one second.
Deep breath.
Yeah, take a breath.
He struggled to breathe, but he wanted to keep talking to share this message.
As soon as I can, I'm getting the vaccine, and I highly recommend anyone who has it to do it because this is a very scary situation.
Do you regret not getting the vaccine?
Absolutely, I 100% regret it.
Specifically, what were some of the things you were hearing?
That the vaccine was not a real vaccine, that it was like a tracking chip the government was trying to use on us.
Patrick was in the ICU at Billings Clinic in Montana, which was already seeing its highest number of COVID patients since last year.
This is the ER. They've set up overflow beds in the hallways.
Nurse Chrissy Baxter was among those caring for Patrick.
Is it exhausting?
It is. It's exhausting. I've had days where I've thought, I don't know that I can get up and continue to do this job. And I've been a nurse for 30 years. I believe passionately in what we do. I want to make a difference for patients, but I never thought I would be there. But I've had days that I thought, I don't know that I can continue to do this.
Since then, she says, things have gotten worse. The hospital has limited ECMO treatments, external machines that can function as a critical patient's heart and lungs. Administrators have also discussed how best to get ready for what's known as critical standards of care, essentially guidelines for how to ration resources.
This is heartbreaking. This is something I have never prepared myself for or never anticipated.
And since we met, Patrick took a turn for the worse. He was placed on a ventilator and died this weekend.
Every time we moved him, we weren't sure if the end was going to be in that moment. And so I just wanted to be there to hold his hand.
In just 1 week, Patrick would have turned 25. He now leaves behind a young son.
I, much like a lot of people in my age group, didn't really have a whole lot of proper information. I was hearing a lot of propaganda saying, oh, like COVID's a conspiracy theory, it's not real, you know, just a whole bunch of crap that isn't true. This is very real. It's very scary.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Feel from the information that I have and tend to go through on a consistent basis, when we hear these stories of folks who wish they would have taken the shot, what's missing is the fact that there are medications that could have saved their lives once they got ill, and the people in the medical.
Did you watch the one here that we played, the opening? You weren't listening to it.
I was listening as much as I could. What I'm saying is that the individual talks about, or these stories run constantly. These are the stories that you see over YouTube and others. They're stories about adverse reactions to the so-called vaccines you don't see. And the point I'm going at is that in the medical field, in the hospitals, in the government, they know that ivermectin and some other medications can save lives of people who show up at the hospital before they're admitted.
Ivermectin.
And they let these people die. That's what I see with those things. These individuals are dying because the hospitals do not allow for ivermectin and other remedies that are low cost to be used in the hospitals.
Ivermectin is used for animals, I understand.
Who told you that?
CDC.
Okay. The CDC has approved ivermectin for use with livestock and humans, and it's been used for years. When I went to Africa, the first time I went to Africa, I had the opportunity to consider using ivermectin. I didn't know what it was. But in terms of what's happening now, and I know what ivermectin is, and I know what it can do because the information is there. In fact, Dr. Velva
You
Bowles.
know people that were cured from ivermectin?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
Neither do I know anyone who has passed, except Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad. And he passed in March, a year ago, March.
But it wasn't from COVID. It was from
We
COVID?
don't know. At that time, if you went into the hospital, they said, if you went in there with a broken toe, they said it's COVID. If you was in an automobile accident, they said it's COVID. That's the game that they're playing. And the game that they're playing can only be understood if one goes through the information that is available, the research that's been done, if it's available, if they make themselves available. So you knew or quoted the statement that is horse medicine, that is for livestock. You knew that, but you did not know that the ivermectin is saving lives right now. It's saving lives right now. So when we see these stories, it's not even the flip side.
You gotta send me that.
Well, look,
You have any
for the
visuals,
audience, you start your research at Robert Kennedy Jr. was on his organization's website, which is Children's Health Defense.
Ivermectin's on?
You find testimonies on that.
He's recommending ivermectin?
Yeah, come on, are you serious? It's saving lives. Some of us may remember, it wasn't even 2 months ago, that all these people were dying in India. They were dying in India. They didn't even have the opportunity to burn them up on the things that they sent out into the ocean. They were dying, and loads of people were dying. That was turned around with ivermectin, but that news you did not see.
Yeah.
That news you do not know.
You know, you'll see that on Fox, maybe.
All these guys are tied into the same animal.
Only person I've seen, only place I've seen ivermectin pushed is on Fox 5.
I don't even look at the propaganda. See, these shows, they come off as news, but they are highly opinionated. They come off, they're not news. I don't care whether it's MSNBC, NBC, CBS, they all run the same line. You turn from one channel to another, and they're saying the same thing. They're not saying there's nothing new, there's nothing different in it. So that makes those of us who are in media take a step back. So how come all these guys are saying the same thing, men and women? There's a lady in Detroit. She was testifying at a legislation hearing. Her name is Dr. Christina Parks, I think her name is. And you didn't see that. She's one of the baddest black women in the whole wide land. That lady rocked. She dropped a whole lot of information, including ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, whatever that thing is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I was going to ask you about that, hydrochloroquine.
Yeah.
You recommend that too?
Yeah, brother. What they're doing is allowing people to die because the vaccine can't save you once you ill. You go in there, the vaccine ain't gonna save you from getting it.
You sound like a Republican, man. I mean, you're
all
my
those
man.
people, brother Gilchrist, all those people. Pardon me. All those people who got a shot, they got a slip that said consent form. They didn't read the consent form. They just wanted to get a shot and have their number on the side, get a pass and all this other kind of bull crap. If they read the consent form, it says, this does not stop you from getting COVID, neither does it stop you from passing COVID on to someone else if you have COVID. And then at the very bottom it says there is no federally approved, can't remember the wording, but what it's saying in print is what they don't say to you on TV. Fauci and the rest of these guys.
See, what you said is exactly, I'm on the opposite side here on this one. Ivermectin is known as for horses. And hydrochloroquine is, that's a Trump invention. So anything Trump comes out, when Trump moves his mouth, he's usually lying.
No.
Or telling some fabrication.
Trump, we're tied into
You have
so-called
something
political
positive?
parties. The Reds, the Blacks, the this, the that.
Well, what do you? What
No,
do
we're
you
tied
think-
in. We're tied into
Look what
loyalty
Trump
to.
has, how
We're
Trump
tied
has
into
affected it.
loyalties. Well, when Trump Trump called it, but Trump. I'm glad you brought it up because Trump did get ill from COVID. Is that correct?
Did he?
Yes, he did. How long did it take him to get back in shape? 3 days.
What did he used? What is it that he used?
No,
There was another
they
one.
said he used. There's
Something
a,
had stock in.
he didn't use that thing that kills people in
Hydroxychloroquine, quine. He didn't use that, or either Vexin. I forgot the name of the other.
No, it's about 5
It's
combinations.
antibodies.
It's about 5
Something,
combinations.
Mary, do you remember that cure that Trump took?
He was back in 3 days.
Yeah.
He
Now,
was
that's-
back in 3 days.
Boy, he
How
had
come
the
the boy
best.
that we just saw couldn't be given that same medication?
We don't know what he was given.
Come on, brother.
We don't know
Come
what
on,
he
brother.
was given.
Listen, there ain't no need to protect nobody on this. We talking about not on sides. We have to be on the side of truth, not on the side of, I'm a Biden guy.
Do we
I'm a
know
Trump
what
guy.
he was given? They didn't mention what he was given.
Brother, that boy, that
When
young man
he made
died.
this interview, he was doing well. Something happened after that interview because 3 weeks later, he was dead.
3 weeks later.
3 weeks after this interview.
3 weeks
Doing-
later.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, the boy he took ill sometime during that time. He could have been saved by the medication that they classify as a livestock medication. These people are lying. They are not righteous people at all.
Well, you said the same thing
When-
about Hillary, and that's how we
Say
got
what?
Trump. You said the same thing about Hillary, and we got Trump.
Ask the Haitians about Hillary.
Oh,
Ask the Haitian people about Hillary
They were blaming
Clinton.
Hillary for what Trump.
Ask the Haitian people about Hillary Clinton. They
what
will
did
tell
we
you
get
how
as a-
honest she is.
I'll go back to that Hillary hating, and we got Trump. And you don't figure that's a disaster?
Ask the Haitians.
Did you enjoy the 4 years we had to spend with Trump? And we
Tell
know
me
he's
how
a con
different-
man.
how
Look what he's
different-
doing now.
How different it is from the prior administration that was in office. I don't know. Tell me how different it was.
Trump and Obama?
Whoever was in the prior administration,
Obama.
did we have homeless black men on the street during his time? Do we have homeless black men on the
I wouldn't
street?
even attempt to compare the two.
I know.
I wouldn't even attempt to compare the two. Because we have the same sucker that held us back still in office. And that's the head of the Senate.
Well,
and racism,
racism
yes.
is
Trump was
alive
white.
and well. It ain't changed with the
It
administration.
got worse because Trump, a white racist con man, was in office and stole and robbed and pillaged the government, went $7.8 trillion in debt. He ran up a almost $8 trillion debt.
Well,
And Wall Street made plenty of money.
well, maybe
And
he
who
isn't
suffered,
the only
who
one.
suffered from all that?
Maybe he
All the
isn't.
Hillary haters.
Maybe. I don't know the woman from Skiddly-Wide. All I
All the
know,
Hillary haters suffered
all I know,
from that hating Hillary.
I went to a Haitian demonstration against so-called Miss Hillary Clinton out at Mega Evers' graduation, which was held at Barclays.
Yeah.
The Haitian people have questions for Hillary Clinton relative to
Well,
the
it's
monies
from what
that was.
her husband did with the rice back in the 90s.
Combination of things.
Haiti was selling rice, and suddenly they had to buy rice from the southern states, from America. That was a con by Bill Clinton, not Hillary Clinton.
A Democrat, right? It ain't changed.
Yeah, a Democrat.
It ain't changed.
A Democrat.
It ain't changed.
But I don't see how you favor Trump.
I favor
He's
truth.
a con New Yorker.
I favor truth over falsehood.
Well, let's run and show the truth about. Mary, what do you have to say about all this?
Well, first and foremost, I just have to thank God that I'm still standing, that I wake up in my right mind, that I know my name. So for that, I have to give God the glory. I thank you for inviting me back. And I think I'm a little unique in the essence that I take a different stance when it comes to medical health and politics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do I draw the line? How do I separate them? Politics is nothing but the control of people and money.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take. And when you look at the medical situation right now, Pfizer is a company that's making money. Moderna, same thing. All of the medical companies out there that have access to create some form of medical relief at one point in time have been brought back and pulled on the carpet for having what they put out there for us to consume as consumers approved by the FDA to later be found to be recalled. Simple things that are even made available to us over the counter. So where I draw the line with that is medical doctors and scientists and people that have the terminology or heading as a doctor, but they're doctors of what? Most of the doctors that we're listening to on television, the news, when was the last time, and this is a question, when was the last or the first time they ever attended a patient, physically went in and looked at them? Or are they medical doctors in terms of a spreadsheet, in terms of data? So you look at a scientist has information, but they're about numbers, they're about experimenting, and I don't think that they're not needed. They are needed. Because on this very show, about over a year ago, I mentioned the fact that we're all Frankensteins, in that we, because of scientists combining their ideology or their hypothesis with medical doctors, have been able to give us eye transplants, heart transplants, blood transplants. So we're all a little bit of Frankensteins, and we're all a little bit of Draculas right now. When you look at scientists come up with all kinds of things to enhance, what do you call, fertilization, fertilizers, how to be able to preserve things. And we are the guinea pigs. Not only are we as humans guinea pigs, but also the other ecosystems within the world. So I'm not too happy with them. I think that any type of person that has worked with data, you know how to formulate a questionnaire that could be geared to give you the results that you want and not necessarily the factual results. I think that right now, in terms of the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, I was really taken back with our newly elected leader, the president. He was fine with his speech until he did something to me in my listening to him that was no more than going back to the Civil War. He divided our country again with the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. That was almost like saying the blacks and the whites, the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots, the privileged and the unprivileged. May not have realized it, but to me, at the same time, hearing about what's going on in Texas regarding the woman's right to choice, where do we fall? If we're saying that a woman has the right to determine whether or not she's going to have a baby, forget the number of weeks for being able to say whether it's a live fetus or not. How do you draw the line that on one hand, you have the right to say what you could do with your body, and on the other hand, you don't have the right to not have something put into your body? To me, that's confusing. So I'm not appreciative of that right now. I look, I read, and as far as the news media is concerned, we are privy to what the media brings to us. They are reporters. Not very many of them have ever experienced half or anything of what they're talking about. They haven't experienced anything. I would like to see the data. You talked about this clip that we just saw. The question was, what type of treatment did that young man receive? We don't know.
No.
We merely saw them in an emergency status within the video where they were looking as though they were doing everything to save his life. But we don't know what medical treatment he may have been given or not given.
Right.
We don't know. Then the next thing
But
is
Leroy
that
said he should have gotten hydrochloroquine.
there are a lot of medications, and I'm going to go
Vaccine.
back again to one of your shows back in 2019, prior to having a vaccine, where I sat here and I said that my concern, at that time we were talking about all of the disparities that have been given to black and brown people, and I just was sticking with black, which was in the confinement of my understanding, not disrespecting any other group. And one of the things that I said on your show was my fear was that if we have all of these black people living in Harlem, and I'd put it to Harlem, that have underlying health conditions, that do not go to a physician, that do not have a doctor, that just don't go, and they use the emergency room for whenever they have a problem, they go, and when they feel better, they come out, and they don't go back. My fear then was if and when a vaccine was available, that our people would be lined up, standing in the streets in front of Dwayne Reed and CVS to get this vaccine, because I saw the politics that was being built up to say that this is the thing. It's like we would sign up to get something that we didn't have. You know, when you're told that you can't have something, the need, or when you make it scarce or not available, that's when we get anxious and we want it. Did that not what happened? That happened. And if it was only one vaccine, they talk about vaccines. Yes, vaccines. On your show one time we talked about being vaccinated. And I expressed that my children, I got the polio shot. We gave them the measles and all of that we
that was
did.
automatic.
However, not being a doctor, that was one type of vaccine. Now you have 3 vaccines that are available here in the United States. What is the difference between them? Why wasn't it just one vaccine? And why was it not that people were looked at in their overall medical condition to help determine which vaccine would be best for that particular individual, knowing that they may have underlying ailments? That has not been done. You do not see the data talking about individuals, what their body condition was, like antibodies. We talked about that on your show.
You have to realize, though, we're talking about in 18 months, we've got close to 700,000 people dying.
Yes, that's true. And that's more than what we've had in the world wars, the civil wars. It's
All
more.
of them combined.
However, when you also take that into consideration, look at what's going on pertaining to population control. If you look at the data on that, what's being put out there is that the world can no longer sustain having 800,000 people born in this part of the region anymore. The world can't sustain that. So there is
So you
talk.
put this on a cabal of, or a conspiracy of controllers or?
I think that when you sit with like minds, you come up with different scenarios. If the world has to decide that we're going to have population control,
Well, that's
and
been
that-
talked about.
okay, well,
quite a bit.
population control. At one point in China, you couldn't
It's
have
always-
but 2 children the max.
Yeah, that's always
Okay.
been a subject of controlling
So what do we
the
do?
populace.
But I don't
So,
think.
I've got a theory that, maybe the aliens came here to unite us.
No, I don't think the aliens came to unite us.
Or
but
divide us?
No, I really believe, in all honesty,
I
really
believe
believe, in all honesty, that we're not getting all of the truth. We talked on this very show, your program, the Gilchrist Experience.
And
We talked back in 2020 that this virus, at that time they labeled it COVID-19. We talked about that. We said and heard that there was a possibility of 26 to 27 mutations.
yeah,
You have not heard that scenario anywhere on public media. So does it exist? Is that true? If you listen
Well,
to the
we've
language,
we've gotten 2 so far.
right, we've gotten 2 so far, but no one ever talked about that. They
Well,
said, get the shot,
Well,
get the shot, and you won't get COVID. They found out that's not true. You get the shot, you can have what they call reactions.
let me tell you my reaction to my getting the shot. I thank God I got the shot.
Okay.
Because after my last show, for those of you that don't know, I went home and passed out and had a little accident. I fell and hit my head, and I had a brain bleed, and I spent 7 weeks in the hospital. Now that's an experience that you don't want to go through without the vaccination. I mean, I would have drove my wife crazy, really, for her worrying so much. But that's one of the reasons why I got the vaccine, so she wouldn't worry so much.
Right, but you had the vaccine before you had the
March
the fall.
23rd was my second shot, and I got sick May 26th. I
okay.
had Curtis Course call me up and ask me if it was a vaccine that did that to me. And I sat there and wondered whether it was or not. But I can't imagine going to the hospital without a vaccine.
Right, because mentally,
All the stuff I was exposed to.
but mentally you know that because it's after the fact.
Yeah.
But what I guess what my point is that, again, and I stress, I am not anti-vaccine. What I am anti is withholding of information. And if you recall on this very show, you spoke about the former president, Trump, whose name I very rarely call. I said then that my biggest fight with him was the fact that he knew, he had to know. We did not find that out until months later when he confessed on 60 Minutes that he knew. So if I'm sitting here as a
He knew
layperson,
on
right,
January 26th.
right, and he felt that it was
And
not.
he was calling it a hoax.
Right, and he felt that it was in his right, holding the position that he held, to withhold that information
He didn't
from
want people
us.
to panic.
Didn't want people to panic. Do you not think that that type of mindset, that type of thinking somewhere is not woven into scientists, woven into doctors?
That's why I can't believe anything that comes out of his mouth.
Right, well, that was
So if
Trump.
he says take hydroxychloroquine, that's the last thing I'm going to take.
Well,
Now Leroy tells me that could have saved this young man's life.
Well, there are medications out there that can save. And while we're on that, one of the things that troubles me even further now is that we've gone away from the overall health. Now that scientists follow the science is what we're told. Now that scientists have admitted very vaguely, very smallly, that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID. The vaccine does not prevent you from spreading COVID even if you got it. The only thing that they're saying now is that getting the vaccine, no matter which one it is, it will lessen the impact of your experience with getting COVID. But they still have not put out the data pertaining to the antibodies. You don't hear anything. You hear a little schmither now where they say that the vaccine will help you build up antibodies. So what is the number? What is the number of a child's antibodies? A child that's 5 to 10, what type of antibodies, what's the highest? I don't know.
Well, we're
what
gonna
type
make
of
it a point
antibody
to-
do you have once you got the vaccine?
I want us to work on this so we can have some common cause here and see what really works. So I've been been taking care of my own problems for 4 months now.
Yeah.
I'm still getting a little repercussion. I might mention I lost 23 pounds, and I gained it back. Oh, and that was being in a hospital is really, if you don't have God in your life, you cannot survive.
You said
I was talking about being suspicious of drugs and what people are giving you. I mean, some of the situations I went through, I was fighting demons.
But you wasn't admitted for COVID. See, that's where the difference is.
That was
You
a
was
good
not
part.
admitted for
I
COVID.
figure that's because I was vaccinated.
Right, but see, you're saying that, but you really don't know. And,
I imagine I would have caught something.
you probably, you can go in the hospital and get pneumonia. You go in the hospital and pick up anything. You can
But
go
my
anywhere
worry
and get
would have been so much higher.
because it's
I
your,
was worrying about what they were giving me, supposedly helping me.
yes.
And I had a big fight. Matter of fact, I was fighting with one nurse. She gave me something, and I felt drugged. I kept telling him, I feel drugged by this. It was a blood pressure medication. They were changing it, and I was going up and down. And I said, I can't take that stuff. I said, you just gave me some dope. I feel doped up. And they would look at me and say, you look all right. You look fine. And I said, what, are you crazy? And I didn't get a chance to look in the mirror and see I look fine, but I was feeling so bad. And they kept telling me I look fine. I thought they were crazy.
But it wasn't COVID.
Yeah,
It wasn't COVID.
it wasn't COVID.
And that's what I'm
I
saying.
can't
So
imagine what COVID's like
you,
and what
you,
I went through.
you can't really imagine. And I guess the point that Brother Leroy was making is that there's always alternative medicines. And if you recall when we talked about the former President Trump,
Who was
whether or
recommending
not,
these?
even if he had the virus and whatever they gave him, we used the terminology, or the terminology was a concoction. And the concoction was comprised of antibodies from somebody
Right.
that had the virus or someone that had, and they gave him a concoction with other medication.
Can
Not
we
only-
remember what it was?
But I don't remember what it was, but I do know that if we go back on that show, the cost to get that type of medication was
expensive.
costly.
Oh,
So you go to the drugstore now and you get a prescription. If you were to get a prescription that your doctor gives, the first thing they tell you, the generic is $2. But if you
Yeah.
get the real deal, it's $200. So what do you think? I mean, if that's what's happening with medical and medicine,
Well, you
why
know
would
what
that
I
not
thought,
be what's happening with COVID?
we brought up the subject that Trump knew about it January 26th. And you know when there's a disease out there, who comes out in last place is us.
It's us, always us.
I thought it was a conspiracy to kill black people.
It could be, still could be.
You know, I thought that's what it was. And to see black people say it's a conspiracy to control our minds or whatever other things that makes us, we have this Tuskegee. Tuskegee was a case where we weren't given a medication.
It was withheld.
It was withheld from us.
Okay.
So to compare that to Tuskegee
It's
experiment,
apples and oranges.
it's completely different.
No,
Yes.
an experiment is an experiment. A study is a study.
But this one, I thought, was a complete plan by Trump to kill us. Since we are the majority of, what percentage of the people, of the 670,000 people, are black or brown?
The
I don't know.
information that's available is beyond a Trump. The for the audience, they can go to globalresearch.ca, global research, one word, .ca, the dot as in .com, the .ca. CA stands for Canada. What they're looking for is the guy who runs that site. His name is Chow Sadowski, and they're looking for an interview that took place with him in the beginning of 2020, and he gives a broad picture of this thing that we're involved in now. That's the best I can share. The audience, in fact, should not be an audience. It's too critical a time that we're in. The audience, those individuals in the audience, husband, wife, should do research on the internet, should go to a website called healthimpactnews.com, healthimpactnews.com. They should also go to the Gary Null Show, which is on the internet, prn.fm, prn.fm, and he has a lot of information on there, a lot of information that will give them links to where they can do research and have their own, not opinion, but own understanding. It's very
Do
critical.
we have to listen to it live? Is it recorded?
It's
stored?
archived. They can go to any show, and just the guy is playing. He's playing the voices of people, doctors and scientists, male and female, who are not allowed to be on the CNNs, the MSNBCs, etc. And they're talking not in support of Fauci, they're talking in support of truth and exposing the game that is being run. Now, what Trump is referring to...
You didn't mention Curtis Koss.
I'm sorry.
Curtis Koss.
I'm
Curtis Koss. You remember him?
No, I'm not.
Curtis.
Curtis Koss.
Koss.
Oh,
Well, I
yeah,
said
Curtis
Koss.
Koss is he has a website. I don't know whether he has a website. He should have a website.
Yes, John Kennedy Jr.
Oh, at the same
John
Children's
Robert
Health
Kennedy's,
Children's Health
Robert
Defense.
Kennedy's son.
Curtis Koss is high up on the information chain. He can give you a broad perspective.
Well, him and I differ because he has nothing negative to say about Trump.
But see, that's that.
And
But
you're falling in that category.
but let me just ask you something. When it comes
I mean, how somebody can support Trump, I think something's wrong with you. You're a black man and supporting Trump? I mean, what is...
Brother,
let me say this. I just have to say this. I don't care.
Your sanity.
Politically, I am a Democrat. I declare I've been a Democrat
Well, it
all my
doesn't-
life.
No, Trump used to be a Democrat.
But what I'm saying, when it comes to getting the truth, the facts, that's what I want. I want the truth and I want the facts.
Or anything he
And-
supports. We know that.
But let's go back to Dr. Fauci.
Fauci?
Has anyone really looked at his background and what he has been involved in prior to this? I mean, when you sit and you turn on your
So you
television,
don't trust anything he says?
I am leery because I won't say that what he says may not be truthful, But what I will say is that I have witnessed where he evades answering a full story. Question: did you walk down the street and go in the store? Yes, I walked down the street and I went in the store. That's it. But you never get to what did he do walking down the street? What did he see? When he got in the store, why did he go in the store? If you don't come back and ask him specific things, you won't get the real picture. You only get that version. Walk down the street and went in the store. What store? What did you go in there for? What did you see? Was there people out there? You don't get it. And most of the questions that have been put to our medical team on media, they're just reporting because they want the answers that they already want the answers to. They know what they want them to say. So they're not really questioning them. They're not really questioning them.
All right, we only have a few minutes left. I've spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, we
But
did.
The next show we do on COVID, I'm gonna have some other information and some decent roll-ins of both sides.
Can I ask you a question pertaining to the COVID right now?
Hmm?
What we initially thought the vaccine would do, no matter which one, has it done it?
For me, it has.
Well, you don't know that.
Yes, I do.
You're saying mentally, but you don't know what the...
I feel fine.
Okay, you feel fine, but see, that's what I'm saying. If I may...
I'm doing well.
If I may, I'll press the issue. I have encountered people that have taken different vaccines, and the ones that I looked at that took the same vaccine, healthy, they ended up 2 weeks after the second shot in emergency for not being able to breathe, getting what you call vertigo. And they found that they have had clots on their lungs, small and medium, not large.
So
Never had problems before.
So you
Young
think
people.
that me getting sick, Curtis Cost called me up and asked me if it's because I took the vaccine that I got sick.
But I don't think it's that. I think that you said that when you hit your head, that's a whole different thing for me. I don't think that.
I had vertigo.
But vertigo, they're not even talking about it. And that's what I'm saying. They're not telling people the real deal. It's just like taking penicillin. Penicillin is one of the best medicines we have out there, but it's not for everyone.
And I get hives.
It's not for everyone.
I get
Okay.
hives when I take them.
We have
Last
some
time
of the
I had
best
some.
fruits out there. I'm allergic to so much stuff that it's unbelievable. But that does not make it bad. It's just for me, it's not good. So I'm just saying my thing to the audience is if you have already decided to be vaxxed, whatever you take, start a diary. Know what your health is before you go in. And just recently here in New York City, the doctor that comes on for the city, according to Biden, has now released your personal private physicians to talk to you about being vaccinated, that to answer questions. Where did that language come from before? We didn't have it prior to 2 weeks ago. That language changed. So if you listen to the language, it has changed, because they're now saying to you, go to your primary physician, but the primary physician couldn't have given you a vaccine, at least not that
But
one.
I think Biden's going to make it so.
He opened it up.
I like what he's doing. I just want to go over one other subject before we leave. Would you run item 4? I want to talk about the Taliban. And that's
Oh,
a
the Taliban.
crazy shot you got there, Corey.
What about the Haitians?
I don't have a roll-in on them. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, but-
And I would say with that, we talk about black people. Who's any blacker than the Haitians?
Let's I have a report from my director that Fauci's a good person. And he's got quite a record,
Right, and
you know, of excellence.
ask them pertaining to the
I
record.
just want to run that. I ran the wrong piece. This had too much reading. And what I was trying to show is what the Taliban is about. It's about selling drugs. And they've been drug dealers for forever. And the best drugs on the planet come from Afghanistan. That's been a known fact since the 40s and 50s. Right? Right, Leroy?
The story about the poppy, the drugs. I'm reading that and I'm seeing, well, the story about the poppy, when America, Britain, and Canada, I think it was those three that went into Afghanistan, the poppy production had been reduced down to 5% under the Taliban. Was reduced down to 5%.
The Taliban reduced it.
had blocked that stuff from happening. That there, I'm looking at that. I said they must be talking about the guys that were in when the Americans took over. You do the research and you'll see, you will find, I'm talking to the audience, you do your research and you research American soldiers guard poppy fields. That's what happened, according to news articles, during the time that America was in Afghanistan and the time they left.
20 years that they were there, they were guarding
the poppy
field.
went up right away. The production went up right away because
But back in the 2001 and 2,
2001 it was down to 5%. After
the CIA was dealing with the Taliban back in those days, and they were supporting Wall Street with that's another.
Don't
I
get
did
me
shows
started.
on it.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I did shows on it.
And what is poppy? A drug.
That's right.
so
Drugs have been
there's misinformation there because they had
But
460.
they've been supplying the world with drugs for
What they said,
for half a
what
century.
the research said, is that the majority, the
So you're contradicting this piece.
The
here.
drug trade out of Afghanistan fed Europe more than the U.S. It fed Europe.
But back in the day, everybody knew that the best dope came from Afghanistan. I'm talking about the 40s and 50s. I had a half brother who was a
Came
dope
from
addict.
where?
So, I mean, that was a known fact. Back in the day, when drugs were all over the place, the 60s. Yeah.
Well, it's not where it came from,
60s
but
to
who?
50s.
It's not when we talk about
Who
the drugs.
brought it here?
When we talk about the drugs,
Where did crack start
we
from?
have to talk about who controlled it, who brought it in,
Brought it in.
The
primarily
CIA.
to the black community.
The
huh?
CIA, like everything
The
else.
CIA,
They started
and that
crack.
was the research that the audience can do is Operation Gladio. Operation.
But the point of
Gladio.
running the point of running this is that Trump initiated all this.
Initiated what? The
The
drug
release
trade?
of the leader of the Taliban. He made a deal with the Taliban against the Afghans. That's how we got this deal. That's how we got Afghanistan leaving Afghanistan. I got a couple other videos here, but when you get a chance to play it.
We're looking at mayors, governors, and presidents as presidents, mayors, and governors. They're managers. They are managers for other unseen hands that move them around. Look at Fauci. How is it that Fauci is the top doctor in Trump's administration and the top?
Trump?
I'm just giving an example. And the top doctor in Biden's administration. He lies in both administrations. How does that happen? What I'm saying,
Who's the biggest
brother,
liar out here?
what I'm saying
Why don't
is
you
that
talk about
the hand that
Trump
we don't
lying
see,
about
the hand that we don't
January
see
6th?
has Fauci in place. When they
Who's even more important than that? Trump and what he's done. That's why I brought up the Taliban
Trump,
and how he got there. And it turns, and people don't understand that Trump brought that whole peace, what Trump did in Afghanistan. And what the Taliban are doing is making money and feeding us drugs again. Again,
Okay.
kill black people.
Hold that point. If what you just said, if I were to digest that in the context of what I'm saying pertaining to the vaccines, it's all drugs. Why wasn't there just one vaccine for COVID?
Because
They
they
didn't
needed
ta-
more than one.
There's only one. Why not just
You had
one?
competition.
If you go get a polio shot, you get one shot. If you get the mumps, it's one. If
you
I'm
need-
incorrect, I mean, someone
Because
in
the
the
world
audience.
has this fact. Because this world has this this disease.
It's about the money. It's about the Benjamins.
Sister Mary has given us a pathway to getting an understanding by looking at the Godfather. They split up the pie. They made billions of dollars in the last quarter. Billions of dollars. Pfizer, that's billions of dollars that's been given to them. It's been given to them. The monies back in 2008 was given to the banks. By who? By Chocolate Man. Given to them. I mean, that's a get over. And we're standing here being caught up in I'm a Trump, I'm a Democrat, and all this other kind of bull crap. Meanwhile, the game is going on.
It's going on.
And we're like this and don't even know. It's cause and effect. When Fauci runs into trouble, they put him on Meet the Press immediately. You don't see a guy on Meet the Press week after week, but when he runs into trouble in the Senate, the audience has to go to the Senate hearings of the senators.
And what do you do when you have to deal with McConnell?
With who? McConnell?
You remember him?
He's another part. He's another part of the game. They playing games. They
He's
playing
the director.
games. They are playing
He's the
games with us.
director.
Who loses in either administration? Black people.
He used Trump.
Black people have been losing before Trump.
I think that you're absolutely, I have to say that I just think that it becomes a matter of control and money. That's all it is. And the power shifts hands. It just shifts. So the Democrats, the Republicans, it doesn't matter. It's a power struggle. Look at what just happened
It
with
does
us
matter.
recently with France.
Well, I
When did
enjoyed.
France just pulled away,
I
pulled their
enjoyed-
ambassador
I
out of
enjoyed
the United
the 8 years
States?
of Obama.
Well,
And
I enjoyed the years of
yearn for-
Obama also,
to
but
see somebody like that in the White House.
And the program is long enough for us to do a number of things, not long enough for us to do the things that need. What Sister Mary just touched on is this nuclear submarine deal.
yes.
How is it that it isn't automatically that a nuclear submarine is built in America? Not a contract given to France or Australia. I mean, once again, all I'm pointing out is that we have to watch the game.
Gotta watch the
Yes,
game.
sir.
And watching the game for the audience, the Final Call newspaper, that's the only place you're going to find information on ivermectin and the other alternative, the Final Call
Well,
newspaper,
I'm still on the air.
given to the black community
We're off the air.
by black folks. We're off the air.
Yeah.
Okay.
I screwed it up, and I didn't say something nice about
59.
that. You want to speak your mind, baby?
He's a nice man. I just wanted to say he got credentials. He's not just a TV personality. I was asked to come and speak to the people as a doctor. He's a research person. He works on the AIDS virus and all that.